A ship pulls into the port of Messina, Sicily. Most of the crew is already dead. The few still standing are covered in black swellings the size of eggs. Within 4 years, the one ship's cargo will kill an estimated one third of Europe's entire population, somewhere between 75 and 200 million people. Nobody knows the real number. Nobody was left to count. But here's the part almost nobody tells you. Walk 2 villages down from a road where the plague killed 9 out of 10 people, and you'll sometimes see a village where nobody was affected at all. Same year, same disease, same country, completely different outcome. At the time, people had an explanation. God was punishing the wicked. The survivors were the righteous. It felt like judgment, though it wasn't. The real reason is stranger, and it's sitting in tax records and church ledgers that nobody bothered to read for 600 years. Tilgarsley, England, a village that stopped existing. Tilgarsley was a normal farming village in Oxfordshire. Small, a few dozen families, wheat fields, a church, a manor. In 1349, the plague arrived. It didn't slow down, it didn't skip houses. Within months, the village was gone. Not damaged, not reduced, gone. Every household wiped out or fled. The king's tax collectors came looking for their money the following year. They found nobody to collect it from. For decades, the crown kept Tilgasly on the books, hoping someone would come back and start farming it again. Nobody did. By 1422, 73 years later, the crown gave up. Tilgarsley was formally struck from the record and carved into a private farmland. A village that had existed for generations simply stopped being a place. This happened to roughly 1 in 4 English villages, not damaged, erased. Meanwhile, somewhere else, almost nothing happened. Now go east. Parts of rural Poland and Lithuania in the same decade barely noticed the plague was happening. Not because they were righteous, because they were remote, low population, spread far apart, without the trade roads that funnel merchants and rats and fleas from one town to the next. The disease needs contact to travel. Where there's no contact, there was no outbreak. This is the actual mechanism, not divine judgment, yet distance. Density was a real curse. Look at where the plague hit the hardest, and a pattern emerges immediately. Crowded market towns, ports, anywhere people lived closely together and traded constantly. London, Florence, Paris. The bigger and busier the place, the faster it burned through the population. A small, isolated farming hamlet with one road in and out could go an entire outbreak here with 0 cases, purely because the infected never physically arrived. A market town at a crossroad had no such luck. Merchants, priests, tax collectors, and fleeing refugees all walked straight through, carrying the disease and taking the village down with them. The villages closest to major roads and trade routes had the highest death tolls in England. The ones tucked away had none. The final factor? What survivors did next. But density and isolation don't explain everything. Some villages just got hit as hard as Tilgarsley still exists today. The difference wasn't just how many people died, it was what the people who survived decided to do. In villages where enough of the community stayed together after the outbreak, even a small number, they replanted the fields, reopened the church, and rebuilt. The village continued, just smaller. The villages where the survivors scattered, fled to cities looking for opportunity, or simply had no reason left to stay. They were the ones that left. No harvest meant no reason for anyone else to move in. The village didn't die from the plague directly, it died from abandonment, months or years after the last plague death. Tilgarsley wasn't unique because it suffered the worst death toll in England. Other villages just suffered badly, and rebuilt. Tilgarsley was unique because the survivors left and nobody else came back. The pattern. Three things determined whether a village vanished or survived: how connected it was to the roads carrying the disease, how many people it had to begin with, and whether the people left standing chose to stay. None of that has anything to do with sin, judgment, or what people understood in 1349. It had everything to do with geography and human decision. The people living through it never had access to this truth, of course. They only had one plague, one village, and one outcome, and a church telling them what it meant. It took 600 years of tax records and parish registers, read by people who weren't there, to find the actual reason. Subscribe if you want to understand the world as it actually was, not as it was explained. Thank you.